For the first time in NATO's 77-year history, a member nation has completely shut down American military operations on its soil. Spain has closed its airspace to U.S. warplanes, locked down joint military bases, and told Donald Trump that Madrid will not be complicit in what it calls an unjustified war against Iran. The response from Washington has been swift and brutal: complete economic severance. $18 billion in annual trade hangs in the balance as the Western alliance fractures in real time. The relationship between Spain and America has weathered world wars, the Franco dictatorship, and the transition to democracy, but it has never faced anything like this. Since 1953, when Francisco Franco first allowed American bases on Spanish soil during the Cold War, the two nations have maintained a complex but ultimately cooperative military partnership. The Rota Naval Station and Morón Air Base have served as critical logistics hubs for American operations across the Mediterranean and Middle East for over 7 decades. These facilities have launched countless missions into Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria with Spanish cooperation or at minimum Spanish tolerance. But Iran is different. The current U.S.-Israeli campaign against Iranian nuclear facilities and Revolutionary Guard positions has now entered its 33rd day, and European patience has reached its breaking point. What began as targeted strikes on uranium enrichment facilities in Natanz and Fordow has escalated into a full-scale air campaign targeting Iranian missile sites, naval bases, and command structures across the country. The human cost continues to mount, and Spain's socialist government under Pedro Sánchez has decided that enough is enough. The crisis erupted at 0400 hours Madrid time when Spanish air traffic control issued emergency orders grounding all U.S. military aircraft at Morón Air Base and denying overflight permissions for any American warplane involved in Middle East operations. Spanish Defense Minister Margarita Robles appeared before cameras within hours to announce that Spain would no longer provide logistical support, refueling services, or territorial access for what she termed an escalatory military adventure that threatens global stability. The announcement was coordinated with Spain's permanent withdrawal of its ambassador from Israel, a move that signals Madrid's complete rejection of the U.S.-Israeli military partnership. Within 6 hours, Trump was on Truth Social threatening to cut off all trade with Spain unless they reverse course immediately. The stakes could not be higher. Spanish automotive giants like SEAT export over $3 billion worth of vehicles to America annually, while Spanish olive oil, wine, and agricultural products depend heavily on American markets. But the economic weapon cuts both ways. American companies have invested heavily in Spanish infrastructure, and just last year, American real estate purchases in Spain increased by 3% as wealthy Americans sought European properties despite growing political tensions. The key players in this unprecedented crisis represent fundamentally different visions of global order. Donald Trump, now in his second non-consecutive term, views any resistance to American military operations as a direct challenge to U.S. hegemony that must be crushed through economic warfare. His approach mirrors his first presidency but with even higher stakes, as he faces a multipolar world where American dominance is increasingly questioned. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez represents the European desire for strategic autonomy, the belief that Europe must chart its own course rather than automatically supporting every American military adventure. His Defense Minister Margarita Robles has become the face of European resistance, arguing that NATO's Article 5 mutual defense commitments do not extend to offensive wars of choice. Behind the scenes, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg is scrambling to prevent the alliance's complete collapse as other members watch Spain's defiance with keen interest. The German AfD party has already called for the complete withdrawal of American forces from European soil, while even mainstream German and French politicians privately express support for Spain's position. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian sees an opportunity to drive wedges between Western allies, while Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu finds himself increasingly isolated as European support evaporates. For India, this crisis presents both unprecedented opportunities and dangerous precedents. New Delhi has spent decades perfecting the art of strategic autonomy, maintaining partnerships with both Washington and Tehran while refusing to be drawn into their conflicts. Spain's successful resistance to American military demands provides India with a powerful example of how even close U.S. partners can assert independent foreign policies without catastrophic consequences. This is particularly relevant as India continues to purchase Iranian oil through complex financial mechanisms despite American sanctions, and as New Delhi maintains its traditional policy of non-alignment even while deepening security cooperation with Washington through the Quad partnership. The economic warfare between America and Spain also creates opportunities for Indian exporters to capture market share in both countries as traditional trade relationships collapse. Indian automotive companies could potentially fill gaps left by restricted Spanish exports to America, while Indian agricultural products might replace American goods in Spanish markets. However, the broader implications are more concerning for India's strategic calculations. If Trump is willing to launch total economic warfare against a NATO ally over foreign policy disagreements, what would he do to India if New Delhi's strategic autonomy conflicts with American interests? The precedent being set suggests that Trump's second term will feature even more aggressive use of economic weapons against any nation that defies American preferences, regardless of their strategic partnership status. Three scenarios now dominate intelligence assessments in capitals across the globe. The optimistic scenario sees a negotiated climb down within weeks as economic interests override political posturing, with Spain quietly allowing limited American operations in exchange for trade war de-escalation. The catastrophic scenario envisions complete alliance collapse as other European nations follow Spain's lead, forcing American military withdrawal from the continent and potentially ending NATO as we know it. But the most likely scenario is a prolonged standoff that fundamentally reshapes transatlantic relations without complete rupture. Spain will likely maintain its position while absorbing economic punishment. Other European allies will provide quiet support without openly defying Washington, and America will increasingly rely on non-European bases for Middle East operations. Here's the surprising prediction that most analysts are missing. This crisis will accelerate the creation of an independent European military capability faster than any other single event since World War II. Within 18 months, expect announcements of dramatically expanded European defense spending and new military partnerships that explicitly exclude American participation. The world order that has governed international relations for 8 decades is cracking before our eyes. When NATO allies begin actively obstructing American military operations, when economic partnerships worth tens of billions can be severed over foreign policy disagreements, when European nations choose strategic independence over Atlantic solidarity, we are witnessing the birth of a truly multipolar world. Spain may have fired the first shot in what could become the defining geopolitical realignment of the 21st century. The Iran war will eventually end, but the precedent Spain has set will echo through every future American military adventure. The message from Madrid is clear. Europe will no longer automatically follow America into wars it did not choose and does not support. That's your briefing for today. Subscribe so tomorrow's analysis lands in your feed the moment it goes live. And drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. Will other European allies follow Spain's lead? Or is Madrid about to discover the true cost of defying American power?